Right. Well, see what we do it. This one passed our shave the hair off the arms test. Congratulations. We have a sharp chisel. Now, we're immediately going to dry and then oil this, because water's not good for any of it. Now, you don't need a lot of fancy stuff to begin woodworking, but what you do need is to have a little patience, because you'll have to learn how to sharpen stuff, and that is fun for me. I enjoy it. This is a porcelain tile with just a couple of sheets of sandpaper basically taped down to it. There's 2,000 grit here, there's 125, there's 80 sometimes, and the larger the number, the finer the grit. So the lower the number, the more material it'll take off, the rougher the finish. So you start low and then you work your way up. Now, if you've been hanging around a little bit, you'll see that this sanding block here, this is a diamond sanding block. It's got from 200 to 600 grit. So I don't have a lot of in between. Now this block, I have no idea. I got it from Harbor Freight. It seems to work well, but I can't tell what grit it is, so I don't know whether to go down or up. You don't ever want to go opposite. So don't think I'm going to use this a whole lot, just because I don't like to use things that I don't know what they're necessarily doing. But I did build this rig for it, so I'm going to keep wet sanding stuff with this because it worked out pretty good. I'll finish it with this because that worked out great. And let's see what else we have. And listen, I don't have expensive chisels. I probably spent less than $50 and I've got 2 full sets. So if that tells you anything, that tells you like it's a couple of dollars each. But the difference is the low quality steel, you're going to have to sharpen more often. But that's not a bad thing when you're starting out, because you're going to need to learn how to sharpen well. And that's a surefire way to learn how to sharpen well, is to have to do it often. You'll get more, as they say in automotive, more time behind the wheel, right? The other thing is this hand plane that I just recently got. I've sharpened it once. The parts that you sharpen right there, the blade, which is this side, and then you can also polish the chip breaker. So this is a two-part thing, and I'm going to go ahead and disassemble them from each other with this screw right here. Boop. And now I can deal with those two individually. I'll put my screw back with my plane because I'll lose it otherwise. And also, I guess I should say, the sole, this part of this plane, right? If you get into woodwork, you'll need to flatten out the sole of a plane. And if you watch a live, I've got the live of me doing that entire process. But ultimately, it's similar to this. You just need a wider surface. This isn't quite wide enough to do the sole of that plane and get it flat. So you just need something wide enough that you can move, that the entire surface of what you're going to flatten can fit on it, and maybe 50% more, so that you can have range of motion to flatten things out. And that had all its parts, but it was definitely, it's 1946, so I didn't expect it to be perfect, and it definitely wasn't. Neither is this blade, but I did get it good enough to pull a good situation out of it. This is barely wide enough to work here, so, but I am going to try it, and I'm going to try to keep the process relatively simple. And I'm going to do something I did not do when I first sharpened this, which is put a secondary bevel on. I don't think I did that the first time I sharpened this blade. I definitely didn't do it on that chisel just now. So maybe I'll do that a little bit later when I'm a little more educated on it. I do know what to do with this thing though. So this little tool, I swear I don't know what the name of it is, but man, if you look up chisel and tool on Google, I don't know. It came out on Temu is where I saw it, and I ordered this, and it was a couple of dollars. Like, it was really cheap, but it seems to work like perfect. And what I'm doing here is setting that angle here dead flat on our material, on our file, and then I'm adjusting where the position is for this, because that's what gives me that angle. And when I've got it dead flat where I don't see light going through it, that feels good. I tighten this little screw here, and that little screw has got a flat head adjustment too, if you don't want to rely on your power hands. So this has been soaking, so it's already wet. I'm going to go ahead and get started with it, and I think I'm going to start at like 400, because I'm still going to end up on this 2000. So I'm going to start with 4, go to 6, and that way I don't put too much heartache on it. And whatever that angle is, I'm going to keep it, because once I've started it, I'm kind of committed to it. I don't know the degree. I think they're usually somewhere within 25 degrees or so. Let's see. See that nice shiny edge? Like, and I don't see many breaks in there. So that means I'm pretty much flat that whole way. So it's holding its edge. Um, I don't know how much yet it takes to get to the point where I have to sharpen this, like have to. But I know this chestnut that I've been working on is, I don't know, I did like both sides of 3 planks, and it seems very hard. I mean, it's 100-year-old planks, but yeah, they seem to really fight it. So I didn't want to hog off too much of it, where I had to like work it all back down. But I also didn't want to break all this down, break all this out, and unnecessarily take material off my blade. Like, I guess they've got a fairly long life. I don't know. But either way, I'm gonna keep pushing down on this a little bit, and I'm gonna get some. Now there's like a little sponge or something in there, but also, I mean, simple enough, you just dump water. As a contractor, I always thought that the idea was to keep the blade from getting hot from the friction and damaging the metal. And where there is an element of that to that, the other part is that this water washes away all of the little micro shavings that sanding this material does. This is pretty well made tool. It's 1946, I believe. And look at that. Every time it gets all shiny like that, I get all excited. And this is only 600 grit. I think, and you always have to do the backside and just kind of pull the burrs off. I don't know how often you do that now, but I don't think it hurts to do it immediately after, because you can kind of feel it. This you do very lightly. All of it is relatively light. Here I'm putting a little pressure, but it's very, very light. More of my pressure is just to keep this front end down so I don't teeter at all. And I've got my thumbs on the back side kind of pushing this forward, and that way, if I've got pressure this side and that side, I fully control the forward and back, because I also don't want to roll off the back of my block here and change my angle on the exit. I don't want to roll off the front either, and for the same exact reasons. So I don't know if you guys can see this, but I can see, like, if you look at that little liquid up front here, you can see a little material kind of moving with the water, the wave of the water. So I think the water is doing what it's supposed to do, which I would imagine is also why these holes are here, so that material has somewhere to go, rather than jacking up the front of our, whatever it is we're sharpening our blade. Now I can do this on the back side. I'm going to be dead flat as possible, keeping pressure here to keep it down, keeping a little pressure under here so I don't have to teeter or rock. I can just kind of keep it dead flat. And I mean, that looks super sharp. But we are going to work on that micro bevel on the front side of it. So that means we have to send our, excuse me while I blind myself to try to see. Yeah, so we've got to come forward, would be what the geometry would say, to give ourselves another little additional bevel. So I'm going to put my thumb on there to hold it where it's at currently. I forgot I tool tightened it. All right. And now I'm going to scooch my blade back just a wee bit to get another angle, and I'm going to tighten that up, and then I'll check that angle. I get something that I know is flat, and with some light behind it I can see that I am indeed at a sharper angle, but I think I want a little bit more. Isn't that the problem? Always a little bit more. So I scoop my blade up a little bit more. I'm going to take a look and see what that angle does for me. I don't like it. Should have scooped my blade back that second time. I think I went back to where I had come from the beginning. So let's make the adjustment. Admit our foolish mistakes and move forward with pride. All right, so I'm going to start with 300 grit on this secondary bevel. I'm going to make sure we're not rocking. Ooh, hear that sharp? Hear that sound? Ooh. That means we got material coming off. So we're going to make sure that's nice and wet for that. And we'll listen to that sound change though. That's not me changing pressure. It's sort of the pressure relieving itself, because we're going to skip the 400 and go to 600. It's kind of the pressure relieving itself because now that burr is going down and now there's less friction and that sound changes. Same way the sound changes when your tire slides on ice versus on the road. I'm going to get our burr down on the back side of that. Now, so I'll tell you guys, I don't know if I absolutely needed to sharpen this. Again, what I do know is that I had the time to, and the tool is better off sharp. So I want to get better at it, so it's no problem in practicing a little forward effort just to ensure that everything's well. Now that we've got that, since we got you here, we may as well polish the tip of that. I do have somewhat of a polishing method. Give me 2 seconds, I'll find it. Ugh. Old man legs. Where is it? Maybe in a truck yard. Maybe in the truck. Back. Here it is. Here is the polishing wheel that I used And it seemed to work beautifully. Now the thing is, you still have to sharpen everything, right? Still have to get that micro bevel, the whole nine. But this, once you have done those other things, this lets you get like that super shiny finish that we know means that's we know it means that's good, right? Like that. Looks superb. We will not forget the chip breaker for that same circumstance. I'm going to polish both sides, watching the rotation so it's going the way we want. Otherwise, we'll just tear this up and we dull the blade. You just clean it up a little bit while I'm here. Nothing wrong with keeping a neat and tidy tool. So now for this inside, see, I can't rotate this way for the inside, right? Because I need to polish it that way. So the way we change that is this, right? So we're going with the blade rather than against it. Here we go. Is that a well cared for chip breaker or not? We'll find out when we try to use it, right? Okay. So I'm gonna get all this water, moisture related things up out my way for just a second, because for just a second I gotta put this bad boy back together. And that is a little bit of a delicate thing, and I don't want to do it over water, and I don't want this particularly getting wet. So remove this rig, or I'll just move my camera. All right, these are both fine right here. So now we'll pop these motor scooters together in such a way, like so, so that this sits on the actual tool and at that angle, and it can dig in, and this one catches the shavings that this one cuts and roll them up out of the way, leaving the opportunity for more shavings. What's going on, fellas? I'm not building anything in this particular moment right now. I'm doing some maintenance. I'm sharpening these tools. I got a couple new diamonds, well, a new diamond block, and I'm practicing sharpening these tools, sharpening these blades and these chisels. But it's been a good time so far. You know, every time you do it, you learn a little bit. And what I'm doing here is trying to get just like a 32nd of an inch, maybe a 16th of an inch of forward, what's the word? Reveal here on the blade in front of the chip breaker. Because when I tried to do them together, that wasn't the move. I got a lot of not great business from that. So this is what I seem to have been successful with trial and error wise. So now I'm going to tighten that up, that screw on the back side. And then I hold those two together dead even as possible. You can see that light there between them. And then once I'm good, now I can reassemble this tool, this hand plane, and I can feel confident that I can use it effectively. So we'll put that back onto the frog with the chip breaker up. You know, it sets in when this thing right here kind of moves everything easily. Now, if there's a struggle to drop that lever cap down, then just loosen that screw just a little bit, because you do want it to be the thing that holds this down, but you do not want it to be overly tight or under. So what I'm doing now is looking right down into the mouth of the sole from the top, and I'm trying to make sure that this whole apparatus that we just sharpened is level, like the same reveal across the whole way, right? But first I've got to get this in, and I think my screw is just a little bit too tight. All right, so now that I'm dropped down, I adjust, and then I just clamp it down. Wait. Once I'm where I want to be, I'll clamp it down. For right now, I will. It's not as complicated as I'm making it look. It's, but it is something you gotta pay attention to. So if you look under here, sticking out way far, right? And I want not quite as much. So we'll adjust this little lever here, boop, boop, left to right, and that's going to adjust a little bit of that, and we'll see if that does enough. No. I'm going to pull my lever cap up again and put my blade where I think it should be, nearabouts. And then I'll put that lever cap down again. I'll adjust the left to right, and it looks good that way. And now my adjustment is only here, and I can pull it back, and I don't have to do that unless it's out further than I want. And right now it is just a little bit prouder than I'd like it to be, and I'm just finger adjusting that in the back here. And let's see if I can find a piece of wood to see real quick if we got a working apparatus or not, and see if the thing is sharpened. So I'll just do this, fasten down right here. just to see if we can get a shaving going. And right now, already I got like a little bit stuck. So you don't want that. See like that? Hear nothing, that means I'm not touching wood at all. I turn a little bit, still not, a little bit more. Nope, nope, nope. Here's scrape now, right? Now look what we got. I can already tell by how light these shavings are. It's much sharper than it was. Much sharper than it was. Let me try to get you a nice full wisp. Because that's what we want. That's the evidence of our tool being sharp, and I'm happy with that. I don't need to do anything else like right now to this. It's working perfect. And we may as well check our chisel, because remember, we didn't put a secondary bevel on this, and we can, and we should. Let's see how this does. See? I mean, we're getting something out of it. But I do think I want to try putting that additional bevel on this. So we'll let this F clamp up. Get us some more wet work in. Maybe that was not. We'll just ignore that was ever said. How about that? Alright. Now we move my tool. Now listen. This system where I've got this hose connected to this whole situation so that I can water and wet my stone and sand at the same time. I did that on a short, so if you want to see that, or if you want to do it, you know, there it is for your stealing pleasure. If you want to go cop how to do it, totally down for it. And for this, I just plug in the pump, and then I can sand away. Okay, so the point is we have to find this angle, right? And we need to have a pretty good idea that it's not the same angle that we've got on there now. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this little bevel tool set up. Lock on that like we did before. Bevel side down. And I don't know that I'm going to be super particular about that angle. I just need it to be steeper than what I started with. And so I'll just go a little further forward. And this is not a perfect tool here. So one thing that I'm noticing is that what you don't want to do is get it tilted a little bit, because then you'll be wearing one side and the other differently. Like right now, see how it's a little tilted? That may be a sign of the tool quality itself, but that's something you're going to want to pay attention to. So I'm just adjusting that a little bit as I'm going. In fact, I wonder if I can use this top. If I can use this top angle to grab it. I don't know. No, it's not quite wide enough for that. So we'll just do it the other way. What we'll do is pinch it right in between these two vices rather than inside of the channel, because it looks like that channel's not dead perfect. But we could likely just rest maybe on that bottom of that rail, because that's flat and that's the same all the way across. Let's watch our angle a little bit more. Yeah, that seems to be the way. All right. I'm going to do the 300 and then the 600. Again, you hear how abrasive that sound is? It's already wet, so it's carrying away our debris. Alright, there it is, sort of calming down a little bit. Less friction, less friction, less friction. That means it's taking away the material we want. And then I'm going to do a little bit of this on the back side to get the burr off. Not much. And then I'll be back on this. 2 fingers. Nice even pressure. Not going particularly fast, not particularly slow either. Now, I'm going to go over to my 600. Let me just dump this in the water real quick so I don't have to turn that pump on and you can hear me better. 600 grit. Again, starts out sounding pretty rough, right? And you see my block is wiggling, but I'm keeping enough pressure for this to sort of wiggle with it. I did have a notch in my wood to hold onto the lip, but I've only got one. I gotta get another one on there. Now, what you'll see here now is that main bevel there, and then that micro bevel on just the front. Let's see how that does for cutting stuff, yeah? We'll get our piece of scrap again. You get that bevel on the back too. Always get that burr. We'll release this. I'll just try to hold this down with my elbow so I don't have to suffer you a clamp waist. All right, here we go. It's not bad. In fact, that's pretty good. This is for a few dollar chisel. Well, let's see. It's kind of ripped. It could also be user error. So, I don't know how aggressive you want to be with it, but like that seems to be willing to shave plenty. Like that's not a thick shaving by any stretch. So that worked out good. So apparently the 600 grit block is enough. Like, this is pretty good. It's got 300 to 600. I think I picked this up from Harbor Freight or Home Depot, one of the two. Um, but I'm sure you could find it online, maybe even cheaper, maybe even better. I am gonna get a higher grit sand and stone or something like it because I do want that micro refinement. Nothing like good sharp tools, and these really are becoming worth the effort, worth the time. Even the best tools, the best knives, the best vices, the best everything, nothing is going to last forever, and it's all going to require maintenance. You might as well get good at it up front, so that you can maintain and manage lifelong tools if and when you're ready for lifelong tools. Because here's the thing about all this stuff is you just may not like it. And if you decide you like watching it, but you don't actually like it, uh, maybe you become an observer rather than spending money on something that turns out is just interesting to you and not necessarily worth a large investment. Now, again, tools like me, Harbor Freight, you can usually find between that and Amazon, you can usually find a version of any tool you want at sort of a subprime price. And the difference is it may not be great quality, but most times it will work and give you some idea. Now, the problem is that lower quality tools sometimes are such bad quality that they're not enjoyable to work with. So you just give up and think this is too hard. So before you do buy, I'd love it if you saw some reviews, because if you know what to expect in terms of a tool's quality or whatever, you may say, okay, I can live with that. For instance, these chisels are not notoriously known for holding a long life bevel or sharp blade, but you can resharpen them at least as many times as this is long. It's just eating metal away, right? So it can get sharp, and once it is, it'll do the job just fine. It'll just probably get dull sooner than a, I don't know, $50 chisel or whatever lunatics pay for them. But me, I've got time in the garage. This is all helpful and enjoyable for me, so I don't have really huge hangups about, oh no, I've wasted my money, or oh no, I've spent a bunch of time and I'm not getting a return, because I'm not doing this necessarily for a return of dollar. I'm doing it for a return on time. I enjoy it, and if I end up with something cool at the end every now and then, like this guy, or this frame, or this easel that I built, all of it, right? Or that, I'm super happy about it. Now, these aren't things that I have no idea what the market value of them is, and if I can go out and sell them and buy more, I have no idea if it's even worth that. But everything that I've built in this whole shop has been a super learning experience and a lot of fun. So I'm going to continue to do it anyway, and I'm going to continue to show you guys so that you can see if you want to or if you don't. And if you do, maybe we can pick up some tips and we can exchange some tips. People hit me all the time and correct me. I encourage you to go look at my shorts, not just because it helps me out on the channel, but because there's so many things there that came from somebody just asking me, how do you do this thing? How do you do that thing? And I try to put it out there. And I'm having a good time at it. Now, one thing I haven't learned to do yet, that was embarrassing, is sharpen one of these properly. Now, I think it's the curvature of the blade, and there was a guy that came on my chat before and showed me how, if you look on my past lives, past lives, doesn't that sound weird? Um, he was describing a technique. I'll try it while I run my mouth, about how to because on all blades there's going to be a bevel side and a relatively flat side, and you can tell that with this knife by there's no bevel at all on the serrated part of the blade, and on this side it's extremely different. Now this is a cheap knife, got it on sale, and I was glad to get it. I'm still glad I got it. It's super convenient. I have, I don't know, 7 or 8 pocket knives, just so that I can grab one at any time on the go. And I believe this is the technique. If we're doing something dumb and being an idiot, you can let me know. I'll listen. Back to the water. Now, I'll tell you an interesting factoid as I rotate this stone about razors, because obviously I have no hair. But if you shave with a razor, generally what's dull in the blade is water and microscopic rust, not your powerful hair. So if you dry off your razor blade like immediately after you shave, and you can just dab it with tissue. Tissue paper is great for absorption. Like, it really is like a miracle product. But now I'm on the 400 grit, by the way. But if you use that technique and dry that blade right after you use it, it will last at least 5 times as long. I have been doing this for years. I am like on a subscription service that sends me razors for my head because I use razors. They send me enough for a couple of months and it lasts me the whole year. So I always end up stockpiled because I just don't need to use them as much. Now we're at the 600 grit. We're going to see how that goes. I hope I'm still doing it at the right angle. This one you just have to kind of feel for it in. Let's see, let's try this. That feels better. We got us a good sharp chisel that cut hair off my arm, and the hand plane blade that did the same thing. But I don't think I've ever been able to get a good cheap knife. Maybe that's an oxymoron, good and cheap. But I don't know if I've ever gotten one of these to actually get to shave hair, because I buy cheap knives. Like, that ain't shaving nothing. And it could be the metal. I'd imagine it's more my technique. I'll show you how cheap these are. I got 2 of these on sale though. It was like a Home Depot sale for like $9 though. Like, that's pretty good for $9. Mm-hmm. I didn't see that. It's stuck. $9. Got the pair of them. So, not awful. Back to the sharpening. So, maybe they'd last if I didn't do stuff like that all the time. Like, that makes sense too, right? But today, let's see how that goes. I think I'm going to go back to the 200 and just go again. And I'll just see if I can maintain the same angle the whole while. See if that helps. 300. 400. 600. Does it feel sharp? No. Wait, that did. So my angle's flawed somewhere in here. We'll go back to the 400. Let me just take an intentional look and see if I can go by the visual. Let's try about right there. I'm sorry, 600. Let's see how that did. We know the good tools will get sharp. We want to know if these cheap ones will also do all right. Now the tip, for whatever reason, this about an inch of this feels like razor sharp. No, that's not bad either. Maybe I just missed something somewhere. Get our burr off of there. Well, maybe I'm doing it right, maybe I'm doing it wrong. You let me know. What do you think in the comments there? Feels decent. Not bad. Sharpen that sense, and pretty much that's what I need, right? We'll call that Gerber done. And now we'll talk about the Gerber baby. Get it? Okay. Corny. All right, this one's much smaller. There's no serrated end on this one. Just looks like it's got a bevel two ways, really, if you just look at it. There's a bevel on that side and on that side. So I'll see if I can find that angle. Feels like about right there. Soak my block again. This is the 200 grit side. It's not random. I am holding it to this angle of that blade, trying to get the same angle bevel. Feels like a lot of cheese grater in my hand. But I really do like these little knives. They're very convenient. They're super light and easy to carry around without feeling like you got something bulky in your pocket. And that's fantastic for me. I got a small frame. I don't like carrying a bunch of extra junk. But I do like carrying around useful things. And if they take up less space, that's even better. Because this technically will do most of the things that its big brother will do. It won't do that. Not yet. Let's put a little bit more sharp on it then. Now, we did this side. We didn't do this side. So we'll start back over with a 200. You can tell which is more comfortable and natural for me. I think that's key, like which way is comfortable and natural for you. That's 200 grit. That's 300. Four. And we'll try the 6. And we're keeping it nice and lubed up with water the whole way. And again, after, I'm going to dry it off, and I'm going to put oil on everything because that's what's going to preserve the blade from decaying on its own unnecessarily with moisture and rust. So, I feel like it's ready to go. That's a good blade, right? Catching the end grain. That's all I needed to do. After that, I'm happy. I'm not going to shave my arms with it. One, because it wouldn't work. But two, I just don't need to. I don't need that tool to be that sharp, not that sharp. This one, sure we did that. We do want it that sharp because I am going to be getting pretty delicate little shavings off of things with this. I want to be able to do that with this tool. I don't need to do that with my pocket knife. So, take care of these things and make the active effort to work on them all. Now, notice I didn't just throw this in trash like, oh, I'm not going to do anything to it. I do want it to be maintained. I do want to get my value for it. I just don't want to overspend in time or money on something that does the job perfectly efficiently, really cheaply. I would say inexpensive, but I'm not an inexpensive guy. I'm a cheap guy. So what we have is a fantastic, sharp blade on our hand plane now, again, which is dope. And we got that. I don't think I did the little micro plane. Let me see if I can find it. It's usually nearby, and I use it quite a lot lately. 1 second while I scan the room for things that I'm sitting right next to and don't know how to locate somehow. It's an affliction. I don't know what it's called when things are like in plain sight, but you can't find them. I don't know. I think I just need more coffee. Heavens to Murgatroyd. Okay, I do see it. It's right over there. Wait, where'd it go? Bam. That little guy was a lot of work to get. I have to light these incense for a second. Excuse me. But I have to have the vibe right so that I can have all of my senses stimulated, including my sense of smell. So I'll often light incense while I'm working. So this little guy is a tiny little plane, and it's got this one screw, and then it's got this thing on the back that comes through, and that's the blade. No chip breaker, nothing like that. It's pretty simple. But that blade came with a ridiculous hook in it. And if you look in it, you can see that I didn't take all of it out. See that? I am going to take it out today. And I'm going to try to still flatten this sole yet a little bit more because this boy was way out of flat when I first got it. And it's better now, but it's not great now. So I think I am going to go with, I don't know if I'm going to go with this. I think I'm going to go with the stone on this one. But I may need a heavier grit than that. So we may try this. Who knows? Might as well start out with the grits we got. But first things first, I'm going to disassemble this. Wait, first things first, I'm going to drink some coffee. Second, we're going to disassemble this. It's got this little screw. Again, most things woodworking, a flathead screwdriver does. I don't know why. I guess they're the ancient tools that are keeping flatheads around. But we did manage to get this square last time, although that bevel is still clearly imperfect. So now that we've developed some technique, we're going to try to revive it same way we did everything else. And we're going to put it on our little machine and turn that little screw on the side. Sorry, this thing is a little awkward to get started sometimes. And now here's the thing. See those two little grooves there? If you have this tool or you get this tool. These two little grooves, I would presume, are there. I'm talking about inside of here, inside of here. I would assume are in there to hold the material, right? Because it seems to make sense. But what I found is that they're not exactly the same, and it'll put a little tilt on the blade, and that'll make for an angular cut or shave, and then your blade will either not be flat, not be a 90, or not be a consistent bevel all the way across. So, but it does have these two little rails here that do seem to be consistent with each other. So I'm just parking it on that and using that and relying on it because it's more consistent. I don't know if a better version of this would have that problem, but I got this off Temu for like $2. So what can you do? All right, so I'm gonna try to find my angle here, and that is gonna be by adjusting where this seats inside of these by going forward or back and adjusting to it until I get an angle. I go forward a little bit and then I check it again. I'm checking it on the flat part here, and I've got a light over there and that's going to let me know if I've got space in between, and I do. And if the space is back here, then I bring my blade forward, and vice versa is true. But right now, it is back there, so I'm bringing it forward a little bit. And this is very incremental. Like, I just went 1/4 inch, and that's probably a lot. But it seemed to be what I needed. Not quite. I mean, and I'm telling you, having a light behind it is everything, so that you can really see it. You don't want to guess. And if you're off by just a little bit, you're going to just keep grinding down that whole plane, trying to get it down to that angle, and you'll spend a lot more time giving yourself a brand new angle than you would if you'd been able to ride the one that was already there. And now feels like we're there. So again, I'm gonna put this, let me get you over there. Go ahead and get this thing taken out. I almost left my incense over there and got in trouble with the Facebook. I'm at the YouTube authority. One quick effort to sage the room again. Get the aromatics. And now I think I'm gonna go back to getting some water on this thing, right? We got this pump here for that, so let's go ahead and get it plugged in. And so now we've got a constant water source, and the reason we want to be sure that we've got water on this is because of this aggressive blade. We want to get all of the shavings off of the material as we're working it off of this blade. We don't want to clog up our grit. So we're going to start with the 300 this time. Even, smooth pressure. Whoop! I dropped the whole thing. Dropped the whole thing in the water. Okay. Let's see where we at. Still not down flat. We still got that little hook in the middle. Right? We want to get it perfect. Because there's no reason not to. I'm going to be dead perfect. So you can go a little bit wild style, a little bit tough and rough with this 300 because it's a relatively heavy grit for what we're doing right now. And we are keeping it clean. Cleaner you keep that, whatever you're sanding with, in this case diamond plate, the better off you are as you go. Now this is quite a bit of hook in this thing. So we're just going to keep working. Now we do have 80 grit sandpaper if it comes to that. Like, we ain't finna run away from this thing. This little bitty hand thing is not going to defeat us today. Not this little one. Not the little one. We got the big one done. We got the 80-year-old one cutting like butter. And the 2-month-old one struggling. But we're going to work it out. I think I'm going to go down to 200 so we can get even more power, baby. Because I really need to grind that bevel down to the low spot, the whole thing. So when there's a low spot, there's no bringing that low spot up. Easy to kind of knock a high spot down, but if you have a low spot, you have to bring everything around it down to its height. So you're cutting off quite a bit of material when you've got a little bow in there like that. And you see it, it's just on this side, right? Just right there. But we want it gone. Ideally, we want it gone, and there's no point in not being ideal and having a half, you know what, system. You got the time to do it, it's part of it. And why not? This is sort of fun, right? Still, no. And I tell you, we've got another system we can go with here. We do. So we don't have to deal with these slow motion shenanigans. Let's pop this off. Ugh. Still got our tool. Ugh. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. What's that? That's 125 grit, and I may have some of that just laying around. Oh, even better, $1.20. So we'll pop that down. Great thing about sandpaper is the bottom one's down. If it holds, all the rest of them hold, because the sandpaper holds the sandpaper wonderfully. So I'm gonna just get this wet, because that's what you do. And then I'm gonna lay it flat, and I'm gonna work that bevel. Now I happen to be on top of porcelain, and porcelain is notoriously flat too. So that's what I've got this down to. Woo. Now, that is an aggressive cut, but that's what we need right now. Let me give you a better view. Now, I gotta hold this down a little flat because I don't want to mess around and put a hook or a bow. That's what we're trying to take out right now, right? Still got it. Still got it. I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna chop it all the way down. Let's turn that paper this way. Keep it wet. I wonder if a flat disc could do this. Sometimes you gotta do this a while, ladies and gentlemen. Sometimes it takes a while. And we are gonna put 2 bevels in this. We're gonna put our micro bevel on it as well. We saw how effective that was, and we're not giving up on the truth when we see it right in our faces. So this is going pretty good. Happy Sunday to you. I hope it's going good for you. I'm having a blast, I'll tell you that. I mean, it's doing something. It's doing something. Let's see. See, I buy these by the pack, so I don't care about them. What I care about is getting my tool nice and sharp here. And if I got to do that in a which way, then that's what I'm gonna get. All right, here we go. More agua. Here we go. regular sandpaper on top of the porcelain. And if I stay right here and I wear this paper out, I can just move up it with no problem. Right? But I want to make sure that I'm not rolling over any bumps and I'm not cutting into any bumps, so that I don't put another gap in my bevel. I want that bevel nice and perfect reveal all the way across. Now, this one came particularly bad, so I have to do an excess of work just to work out this one little belly there. Right? Now, if I get the bulk of that, I'll be all right. But I've got to get the bulk of it. I would say right now, where that belly is, I'm right at like 50-50. If I get to 60-40 flat versus this little lump right here, I'll take it. But right now, it ain't right. And I won't rest until it is. Well, I might rest for a little while. All right, so moving this water over, staying within my flat area, not jumping over any bumps. Making sure I stay moist. Should have been a DJ. When I was in high school, I used to DJ. Get my dad's old records and scratch on them. Oh, yeah, so then I start rapping. Because obviously, alright, so this is 120 grit paper. So this is harsh for a blade. Now we are, I would say, maybe 60-40 into that little pit right there. And that I can live with if you can respect me for it. And maybe you can't. Maybe I'm letting you down. I don't know. But we also have this little Bubba who's been soaking in water for days. I'm gonna go over that a little bit. We're gonna go to the other side because the other side is louder than this side. Woo! We jumped out. Now, I don't want to redo that. We're almost there. So I'm saying that that's a good time to change to our micro angle and adjust that and get that together. If you agree with me, type nothing in the chat and don't hit the like button. Perfect. I knew we were in unison. So let me get a block back, and then we're going to work with this one because we can tell exactly what we've got here, whereas with this one it does work. I don't know any idea what grit this is because it's not on the label. I couldn't find the info online. I got this from Harbor Freight. It seemed to do fine. It definitely sharpens, but I don't know to what degree. Whereas here I've got all those numbers right there available for me because I want to work from heaviest grit to lightest grit, and I want to know anything in between or anything above that if I'm not having results. And isn't all of this about having results? So I'm going to tighten this up a little bit. And then I'm going to see if my micro angle, my bevel for my micro, you know what I'm trying to say. First, I'm going to just cut off this little burr on the side. This is the back side of it. So that should be fine now. Loosen that up. See if I can find the angle I'm after. I don't know what that is. I just know it's steeper than what I want as my primary angle. Just to get a little bit more scoop out of it. And again, I'm going to put that right there against that light as a backdrop so that I can see that, so that I can be sure that I'm higher. And I am. But I think I want to go a wee bit more. So I've come back. That should sharpen my angle. And this time, instead of just simply hand tighten it, I'm going to drop everything and look foolish. I'm going to tool tighten it. Fortunately, I held onto the vise just fine. Thanks for asking about my personal safety. All right. So we'll check that angle again during the chaos, you know. Measure twice, cut once. Check your angle 10 times. I'm still going to pull this back a little bit. I think I'm going to pull it back just a hair more. Just so that that micro bevel, this should be a drinking game. Every time I say micro bevel, y'all can take a shot. Don't do that. You'll be in jail by the end of the day. All right. We've got it. We don't have that angle on here yet, so we're going to start with the 200 and we're going to work our way down. I'm going to move this monstrosity out of the way again. Make sure I don't spill my water. Excuse me. Dump him in our water just in case. Maybe even there. So we are going to start. I'm going to tighten this up again just to be sure, for sure. I'm paranoid about it. Okay, so now we've got our angle. We're going to start with the 200 grit, the very top. And these are color coded too, so that once you get used to it, you'll kind of figure out what to do. But this will be not a lot of material either. Meaning this bevel is not as wide as the primary bevel, so it won't take very long before we cut through enough to move on to the next grit. In this case, it's going to be 300. But for this little blade, it is quite a sharp angle on this. It's probably the smallest blade I'll ever have to use on it. trying to keep it from kind of snagging and ramping. Seems like it might be a problem. And I might have to get my burrs off the backside really carefully. He says as he drops the entire tool. Fortunately for me, this is a bucket of water right beneath it, so it didn't smash into anything dangerous, and if it hit the bottom of the bucket, it hit plastic, so good. Back to the 400. This little one is a whole lot more difficult to keep kind of on track. Let me see if I can. It's just not as. And with that again, let me go to the 600. And that sounds really good. It feels like I got something. So I'm going to gently unscrew that so I don't drop it, because this is a small blade, but it is also a very sharp blade, and it's deceptively sharp, and can easily get cut on it. Now I have to take off the burr off the back side of this blade, which is a flat side. And I'm going to do that right here. There's a lot of techniques for this. Whatever keeps that back side flat. This seems to work for me. And now I think we're good enough to check it. So let's get ourselves situated. And now I am gonna have to put this back together real quick. So let's do that first. Now, still operates the same way as a big plane. It's just that sort of this frog is built in, right? And this thing, I keep dropping stuff, but not the wrong stuff, fortunately. So it's this screw that sits this little channel under that little pin, and then the screw itself presses onto the back of the blade, and that ultimately is how that goes. Now there's a little hole back here that would appear like the screw should go into, and that's kind of what you're aiming for, is that little screw to go inside a little hole on the back side of that blade. But look how proud that blade sits out when you put it there. So what I've done is I back my screw up, I pull that bit back out, and then I just kind of eyeball it where I want it approximately to be, and then I have to just turn that screw until it hits it. And it's not an ideal circumstance, but I've got this stupid little thing to work. And see that screw and that whole relationship to each other in this tool are a mile away from each other. But my blade is absolutely where I want it to be, more or less. So I'm going to tighten that screw down, and what I do have are these two little tabs that you could tap left and right, I guess, to keep that blade level or even or whatever, but that looks pretty good to me. So I'm going to tighten this nut, and or the screw I should say, and then I'll hand tighten it more, and then I'll tighten it with this screwdriver. And it did turn quite a bit, so there's a good bit of pressure going on in the back of there, so it should stay put, because I hand tightened this thing and it still went around a full rotation beyond what I could do by my hand. And now I can just barely touch on the back. I wouldn't recommend this, but I'm just barely tapping on it. And I can tell that I'm a little proud here. So that means on the back of this blade, perhaps if I tap here, I can get it a little bit better. Do that again. That made a difference. So let's see what it does. Let's see if we can get a shaving. I got some little debris on there. Maybe it will be in the way, maybe it won't. Let's try. Look at that. That's nice. That's nice. Like, we couldn't ask a lot more of this little tool than that. But on some planes that are pressure held, you can whack this little blade forward and maybe get a little bit more out of it. Let's try it with just the screwdriver. And now we'll see if maybe we can get a shaving off the top. Now, here's what I use this thing for, and I really like this. Like, whenever I'm doing like a mallet or legs or something, this thing will just let me keep turning this corner. Like, so here's what I want you to look at, is that corner versus that corner, right? And really not a lot of time. You can just keep doing that and keep working it as far as you want to get as good a round over as you like, right? Like, look at it. Let me put it against this. See the difference between that? Now, if you're holding that, then you absolutely 100% can feel it. Let me shave that in for you. I don't know if you'll get the full effect or not. Maybe black is better. So if you are, maybe you can see that a little better. So if you are working on a handle or something that you need a round over on the corner, this just does a pretty job. You see that taper that I can get? All those little cool shavings. But it'll take off just a little bit at a time and do it really smoothly. And then that way, things like handles, like you can see what's coming off, you can see what's lighter, how that bevel is changing, how that angle. And that's a few seconds. It was this, and then it's that. Now, I'll see if I can knock it down a little bit more, and because I know you don't want to see me tweaking this thing all day, but if I can get that blade a little bit further out the bottom without having to disassemble the whole thing. I can kind of show you again. Like we're square, we're the same on both sides. Without much work. We've got ourselves a nice round over, or chamfer or camphor or whatever. You can do that all the way down the board. And that little bevel can be a strong bevel, or it can be a nice subtle round over. And that's just a huge difference in the material feel to the touch, and in terms of its longevity. This is not going to splinter. This will. So keeping even the $2 tools nice and sharp, so that they're $2 tools, not $2 paperweights, right? And you can use them, and now you've gotten a bargain, and you've got your money's worth. So I'm a huge advocate for buy them cheap, learn how to maintain them and manage them, and then upgrade as your interests go. Because we don't want to learn to change the oil on a Lamborghini. If you want to learn to change oil, you do it on something that you can handle, and maybe something that you can't break so easy. So I'm still using cheap tools. In terms of this chisel, I got this Stanley number 4, 1946, 1947, off of eBay for less than $70 with the shipping. And I flattened the bottom. I did the same process that we just did maybe an hour ago with the blade and with the chip breaker, and we were getting fantastic shavings out of this thing as well. Like we're getting we're getting magic out of all of it. And as you can see, this is a really simple process. Overall, it's just a little time and a little patience This block was not more than $20. I'm pretty sure it's Harbor Freight. Um, I couldn't find anything in Home Depot that was geared towards sharpening stones. If you know of anything, I would love a link. If you see something on Amazon that's worthwhile, I'd love a link. I have been told to get a strop, so I've also got to learn how to use that. But until then, I do have this, and that seemed to have done the job in terms of our polishing and getting all that stuff done. So, really cool for y'all to hang out with me this long. Yeah, I mean, it's Sunday, there's plenty to do, and I appreciate you. I might be back um, and put some of this stuff I sharpened to use. I've got probably 8 or 9 more chisels I got to do this micro bevel on that we did. Drink again, yeah. I keep saying it. I'm gonna be all hopped up on coffee, but we did our bevel, our primary bevel, and then we did our secondary bevel, that little shiny part up top, and we got fantastic results. And same with this, we got fantastic results. Now, I don't know if there's some inherent flaw to this steel because this chisel was so cheap, but what I can tell you is that without much effort, I can get that off of this pine. And I know pine is probably an easy wood to cut. I don't know. But I know it's doing it. And that's also what I wanted to tell you guys. See? Is that they're gonna keep saying to you, don't you can't build anything out of construction wood, right? Because it's cheap, it's not great to work with overall. It's a little bit difficult, but that's what you want, right? You want to start out difficult so that it gets easier as you go. It will get easier because of experience, but it will get easier for a number of reasons. And one of them is that as you learn how to sharpen tools better, right? As you learn how to, let me move that. I built this easel too. Ugh. But as you learn how to do those things, you can build it out of whatever you want. I built all of this out of construction grade lumber, right? And I use it all the time. This easel, I built everything here out of Home Depot stuff. This frame, same thing. And as I refine, I'll be able to go to more costly materials, more exotic materials, but only when I've gotten good enough to be able to handle them and not mess them up. Until then, I'm going to have the same amount of fun learning on cheap stuff without being concerned with, did I just ruin $100? No. This is like maybe $2 worth of wood, and I can practice and do all kinds of stuff on it. And I'll eventually cut it down and use it to build something else. And that's the beauty of all of this, is that you're having fun. It's an exercise in creativity. And as far as the sharpening methods, those are more exercise in meditation. Without me yapping over all of this, you could look at this and learn how to do the whole process without hearing my voice at all. And that's primarily what I'm trying to do with the lives, is give you guys a glimpse into something new that I'm learning. And once I think I learn it well enough to be live with it, then I'll come show you. And there's some stuff that I've been doing forever. So, check it all out. And if you have any ideas, please, 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 if you comment on anything, like on the lives after or any of the shorts, commenting on those. If you tell me what you want to see, I'll do it. Like I do almost everything. You see me do truck stuff with my truck. You see me do stuff with the boat. Boat season is coming on us again, so soon I'm going to be doing a lot more stuff with the boat. You see me paint this, you see me build this frame, you see me build this easel, you see me put this lighting up in here. I am going to do the floor because every time I got a down view, my my garage floor looks crazy and I'm a little embarrassed. I don't know what I'm going to do up top, but I don't know, it may look like that forever, but I do have to at least insulate because my poor wife has to hear me yapping every time I'm down here. But I appreciate y'all. I appreciate everybody that showed up. And, if I come back later and I have a good enough idea, pull up on me again. I really like questions. So if you have questions about home improvement stuff or woodworking, I'll talk. So anyway, y'all have a great day. Check me out later. Peace. West Desert. Go light me another incense.